So when George and I were first together, we got along great. And then it went south. We didn't get along great. We were arguing all the time. And in a bad feeling a lot of the time when we were together, which didn't make sense to be in a relationship. If you were in bad feeling, it didn't make sense to either of us. But we didn't know what to do about it, because we thought that if we were arguing about something, we should probably continue to discuss it to get to the bottom of it. You know, for example, if we didn't like something about the other person, we would discuss it and keep discussing it, no matter how bad it felt, because we felt like we needed to muscle through to get to a resolve, to get to a something. And it wasn't working. It's like I wasn't happy with George and George wasn't happy with me, but we loved each other, and we kind of didn't know what to do. We wanted to break up, but not break up.
Like every couple, we would have differences. And little by little, those differences were moving towards irreconcilable differences. So for example, one issue that Linda and I had that was a big problem for us is that I had a life of travel. I traveled, 100 days a year, sometimes more. And she didn't like the fact that I traveled. She wanted me to be around. So one of the things we thought we knew was that we should resolve that, given that it was a conflict. So we would have discussions about it. And in the discussions, I would tell her how, it's my right to travel if I want, and, it's part of my job, and she knew that when she met me, and then she'd say, well, you don't have to travel as much as you do, and now that you're in a relationship, it shouldn't matter, and I don't, what am I supposed to do while you're traveling? So we kind of pleaded our cases and mostly attacked the other person's arguments that they made. And the discussions would get more contentious and darker, and that discussion made us doubt the viability of our relationship. Just that one discussion. The more we talked about it, the more we felt like we weren't compatible, and we were going in different directions, and we weren't meant for each other. And we'd also feel worse about the other person, like she would feel that I was very, very selfish and self-centered. And I thought, that, based on what she said, that she was very selfish and self-centered. But we had this commitment, which we thought was the right thing, to stick with it no matter how dark and contentious it got, because we reasoned that if we didn't resolve it, it was going to be, a deal breaker, and we thought that the only way to resolve it was to continue discussing it, and that was just one of a laundry list of things that would come up on a daily basis. And if we discussed it on Monday, the feeling between us would drop. And if we brought it up again the following Monday, it would start at that lower feeling that we had. So the baseline was dropped, you see. So it appeared to us that every issue that we had was bigger than we ever realized, and more irreconcilable than we ever realized. And it appeared to us that the basic love that we had for each other was not as great as we thought it was, because we were feeling so badly about each other. So you can see how, in our mind, the relationship deteriorated. I mean, it was just a textbook example of how a couple innocently and unwittingly, ruins or loses the feeling of love that they had, and begins to doubt whether they should be together in the first place. What I learned about the principles that was crucial to our ability to change the direction of our discussions was the fact that thoughts naturally come and go, that they are transient. So that if I was upset about the travel issue, those thoughts that are responsible for the bad feeling that I have are by nature transient. In other words, if I understand that it's just my thinking, that I could be looking at the situation and seeing it differently, if I understand that it's just my thinking that's responsible for the way I feel right now, and I understand that thought, when you see thought for what it is, it's just thought, it's going to pass. When it leaves your mind, and when your mind is freed up, you will naturally have an interest and an affinity for other people, because that's the way we are as human beings. We're connected. We're kindred spirits, and the love that Linda and I had was deeper than all the disagreements that we had, and the feeling of love and connectedness would naturally return. And when it did, I was more interested in understanding and contributing to her than I was, defending my own position and feathering my own nest. So it was a very natural process. We'd get into it. We'd recognize this is not good. This is not going to go anywhere. The way we're going now, we're heading south, and we want to go north. So we were patient, and it would pass. And when it passed, the whole feeling we had for each other would change. We'd feel very loving and understanding. And all these solutions and insights from the intelligence behind life would visit us and guide us. So it guided me to understand her better, it guided her to understand me better, and we were able to work it out. And every discussion we had that was on that footing where we were, over ourselves and over our bad feeling, would build on the one before, and we would find solutions to every difference that we had, every conflict that we had. So our prognosis for the relationship, or our view of the future, was that we knew how to work things out. We knew how to get over ourselves, and once we did that, we had all the resources we needed to work anything out. We felt that way, so it made us feel so hopeful.
Right. I mean, I had this moment where the penny dropped, and I went, of course, if you stop enjoying a relationship, it's not going to work out. And I stopped enjoying my relationship because I'm looking in the wrong place. I'm looking, and this was, my head started filling up with all these insights. Like, I'm looking in the wrong place. I'm looking to what's wrong as opposed to what's right. I used to look at what's right. Now I'm looking at what's wrong. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the answer. It's like I have to stop doing that so much. I just have to stop looking at what's wrong so much. So then all my thinking settled. But I had a new direction within me for relationships. I had a path, a clarity. So I didn't have a clarity before. I had what I was doing that was making me feel confused and unclear. And now I had this vision of how to have a good relationship. So it was really funny because when I would go to George, I was in a habit of going to talk to him about what was wrong, and I was in a habit of arguing, and I was in a habit of disagreement, and I was in a habit of, well, this happened, and we have to discuss it. You know, this bad thing happened, and we have to discuss it, and I was in a habit of it. So what would happen is my desire to do my habit would come up into my mouth, and I'd be like, and then I'd stop, and I wouldn't say it, because I didn't want to go in that direction that I used to go into the direction of discussing everything that was wrong and bad and in a bad feeling. Because I wanted to go in the direction of enjoying. And so when I saw that, it's not like I did this, it was a happening. It's everything, all my habits of what I used to do would just come up, and I'd be like, wrong direction. So I just keep my mouth shut as best I could. Now, there was no perfection in that. Sometimes I just went ahead and just then we'd have an argument and a fight, and everything would go downhill, and I go, oh yeah, okay, this is why, because I did what doesn't work. But I was very successful to a large extent in just this habit would come up and I wouldn't act on it, and finally it just broke. It just stopped coming up. When we would fall off the wagon, so to speak, and go back to our old habits and have a real intense argument or discussion that would be very negative, I would get really upset about the fact that we'd fallen off the wagon, and I thought, oh, I'd make meaning of it. Maybe we really shouldn't be together. I mean, even though we're doing better, we're still having these very intense arguments, and maybe it's an indicator that we shouldn't be together. Well, I had this insight, I had this realization that if I didn't make it matter, it didn't matter. I didn't have to count them. Like, it wasn't a law. It wasn't like gravity. It wasn't required that I get concerned and make meaning and count the number of arguments we have to indicate whether we should be together or not. I was just making that up, and I didn't have to. Now, that insight was really helpful because it allowed me to just forget about it. I didn't have to make meaning out of it and think into it and think about it one way or the other. I could just let it go. It was kind of the first time that I looked at me as opposed to them. I saw what I was doing. It wasn't about George. It was about what I was doing. And what I was doing, it was independent, completely independent of what he was doing. It didn't really, in a way, kind of have a relationship with yourself within the relationship, if that makes any sense. And it was like I realized that I could enjoy him such as he was. It didn't really, in a way, it didn't matter what he was doing. It mattered what I was doing. And then that was reinforced by my insight about I don't have to count the arguments against our relationship. I don't have to do that either. So it became about what I was doing, not what he was doing, which was another complete different mentality than I would have, what I had. And which a lot of people have, is that, and it's normal and natural, you blame others. Because you look outside and they said something, your feelings get hurt, so you go, they did it. Where you look inside to see your understanding of what's going on. And there's always a deeper understanding about what's going on with you. Because, see, a relationship is filled with events. And it looks like a contact sport. You know, you versus them. But it's really you and your thinking. Now, it doesn't always appear that way to me. There is no perfection in this. There's no perfection in anything. It's like I don't do this right all the time. I still blame him. But even when I'm blaming him, there's this little voice in me that's going, what's your part? If you had a deeper understanding of your part, he would look blameless. But again, you know, I don't always have a deeper understanding of my part. But thank God I saw what I did. It really helped me, because George and I have been together for a really, really long time now. You know, and we've had a good relationship. We've had a solid relationship. I mean, we've had our ups and downs, and we've had, like all people in relationships, they get closer, and you know, there's an accordion effect in your relationship, which really is an accordion effect in you. You know how you get more caught up and less caught up in your thinking, or you feel more connected or less connected in life? Well, that's what's going on in your consciousness, right? And it plays itself out in your relationship where you go like this. So, I mean, there have been times when I've felt disconnected to George, you know, and I'm sure he's felt disconnected from me. But, you know, that's just a temporary function of mind, and then you find your way back together again. It seems to me like it's what happens in life, within you and within relationships. So, but given that that's kind of a normal part of relationships, the kind of the accordion effect, we've always found our closeness again, and that's what matters. No matter how far we've gone apart in our feeling, we always find our way back.